It was midday in Ezioha, and Chijioke was working in his fields of yams and cassava with his heavily pregnant wife, Nneka. He had asked her to stay back home, but she still insisted on helping. She refused to be idle while her husband labored. This was a determination shared by the women of their village, who worked hard alongside their husbands even in the later months of pregnancy. As they worked, Chijioke noticed she seemed uncomfortable and then asked her if she was sure she should be out there. Nneka told him that she was fine. She said that the child would come when it was ready, and until then she wouldn't sit around doing nothing. Chijioke chuckled, shaking his head. My stubborn wife, but you know you can always have some rest. The child is almost here, he said. You worry too much, my husband. The work must be done and we need to make sure there is food for our family. Nneka and Chijioke continued their work until suddenly sharp pain shot through Nneka's body. She gasped, clutching her belly. Chijioke dropped his hoe instantly and rushed to her side. Nneka, what is it? He asked, his voice filled with dread. She held his arm. It's time, Obim. The baby is coming. Chijioke's heart raced as he looked around, desperate for help. They were too far from the village to reach the midwife, and he had no idea how to deliver a child. His mind wailed, but Nneka's shout and cry snapped him back to the moment. Stay with me, Nneka, he urged. I will find help. He bolted across the fields, his voice raising in desperate shouts. Help! Someone help us! My wife! She's having the baby! Please, we need help! Farther down the field, women working on their own plots stopped what they were doing and turned toward the sound. One of the women, whose name was Ada, immediately recognized the urgency and mentioned for the others to follow. In a matter of moments, they were by Chijioke's side, and he led them back to where Nneka was, now kneeling, breathing heavily in pains. Ada knelt beside Nneka. She was not a midwife, but she had some experience. She instructed Chijioke to fetch her some water. The other women gathered around, murmuring words of comfort as Nneka's labor intensified. Chijioke ran to a nearby stream and filled a gourd with cold water before rushing back. He wasted no time, but the few minutes he took seemed like hours. He stood there charged with apprehension, feeling sorry for his supportive wife. He wished the labor pain was transferable so he could take it from her, but it wasn't possible. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the cry of a newborn baby was heard. It's a girl, Ada announced happily, a beautiful baby girl. Tears of relief and joy welled in his eyes as he knelt beside his wife Nneka, who was weak but smiling. Her eyes was filled with love for the newborn in Ada's arms. The other women cleaned the baby, wrapping her in a cloth before handing her to Chijioke. Chijioke reached out and gently touched his daughter's tiny hand. Thank you, my little princess, for making me a father. Thank you, he said. Nneka smiled, her strength returning as she watched Chijioke cradle the baby. What should we name her? She asked. Ada, who was now standing with the other women, smiled knowingly. In our village, it is tradition to name a child after the circumstances of their birth. Nneka and Chijioke exchanged a glance, and Chijioke nodded. She will be called Aguma, he said, for she was born here in the fields, strong like the land itself, beautiful as the crops. The women murmured their approval, and Aguma's first day in the world was marked by laughter and joy, despite the hardships that had brought her into it. Aguma's birth seemed to bring with it an inexplicable change. It wasn't long after that Chijioke and Nneka began to notice something strange. Where once they had struggled to make ends meet, now their farm flourished. Crops that had always been meager grew in abundance, and even the most stubborn plants yielded harvests beyond expectation. And it wasn't just the crops. The villagers, who had always seen Chijioke and Nneka as just another poor farming couple, came to their home with gifts, yams, cakes of palm oil, bunches of plantains, and even livestock. It was as though a spell had been cast over the village, compelling everyone to shower the family with kindness, or the village had collectively decided that the family deserved their favor. Chijioke, I don't understand, Nneka said one evening as they sat in their hut. Why are they doing this? Chijioke smiled, though he was just as puzzled as Nneka was. I don't know, but ever since Aguma was born, it's like the village has opened its heart to us. The couple were bewildered by the sudden outpour of generosity. They had never asked for anything, and yet people seemed eager to help them, to support their family in any way they could. Some neighbors sent their sons to help Chijioke in the fields, unprompted, while others brought meals for Nneka and Aguma, claiming it was the least they could do. As the days ticked by, it became clear that Aguma was no ordinary child. As her coily hair began to grow, it tangled and locked, no matter how much Nneka tried to comb it. Eventually, they gave up trying to tame her hair, letting it grow into thick, shiny and beautiful dreadlocks. There were few people with dreadlocks in Ezioha village, but Aguma's hair seemed different, almost luminous in the way it shimmered in the sunlight. People who passed by stopped in their tracks to admire her hair, often reaching into their pockets to hand her money or small gifts. Even strangers who had never met the family before were inexplicably drawn to the child. What is it about her? Chijioke asked one day as they walked through the village. Aguma toddling beside them. Why do people act this way around her? Nneka looked down at their daughter, a thoughtful expression on her face. Perhaps there is something special about her, something beyond us. What they didn't know, however, was that those who favored Aguma and her family soon found themselves receiving blessings of their own. Those who had given the family food found their harvest unusually plentiful. Those who had given money saw their wealth multiply. It was as though Aguma carried some kind of divine blessing. And anyone who showed her kindness was rewarded tenfold. Everyone wanted a piece of this blessing, though no one could quite explain what was happening. Some said it was the gods smiling upon Aguma for being born on the land. Others said it was her dreadlocks that held the power, a divine gift that connected her to the spirit world. As Agu grew, she remained unaware of the growing reputation that surrounded her. She played in the fields as any child would, blissfully ignorant of the awe and reverence the villagers held for her. Her parents, though, began to feel uneasy. One evening, Chijioke and Nneka sat by the fire outside their hut, discussing what was happening in low tones. It's unnatural, Chijioke said. People don't just give freely like this. They are expecting something in return. But it's not us they are giving to. It's her. Maybe she is really special, Chijioke. Maybe this is a gift, the mother said. Chijioke sighed. I don't want her to grow up thinking she's different. She's still our daughter. We have to protect her from all this attention. But protecting Aguma from the growing admiration of the village was becoming more difficult by the day. Everywhere she went, people stopped to stare, to offer her gifts and to seek her favor. This continued until Aguma was 10 years old. By then, her family was no longer poor. The once struggling farmers had become one of the most prosperous families in the village. Not through any cunning means or by effort of their own, but simply by the grace of their daughter. But Aguma's gifts didn't stop with her hair or the blessings that followed her. One day, while playing with other children in the village, she noticed a boy named Sinachibia collapse to the ground, coughing violently. He was clearly unwell, and the other children screamed for help. Aguma rushed to his side. She knelt beside him, her heart pounding with fear. Sinachibia's breathing was shallow. The other children backed away as they screamed for help. Aguma didn't know what to do, but something inside her told her to act. She reached out and placed her hands on Sinachibia's chest. Without thinking, she muttered a few words she had never spoken before but seemed to know deep within her. Moments later, the boy's coughing ceased, and he stood blinking in surprise. "I feel better," he said, astonished. The children stared in stoned silence. Aguma pulled her hands back, her eyes wide with disbelief. She didn't know how or why it had happened, but Sinachibia was healed. Within hours, the entire village had heard about what had happened. Aguma, the child with the locking hair and the strange aura, had performed a miracle. After Aguma healed Sinachibia, the village's admiration for her transformed into total reverence. People began to say that she was not just a blessed child, but a healer. The village elders, who had once treated her with mild curiosity, now regarded her as a figure of great importance. Word spread quickly. Soon people began bringing their sick children, their ailing relatives, and even themselves to Aguma, hoping for her touch to heal them. Each time, Aguma would lay her hands on the afflicted and whisper her words, and each time she did, the person would leave healed. In gratitude, the villagers brought her family even more gifts: piles of yams, cakes of palm oil, and baskets of fruit stacked up outside their home, far more than they could ever use. Chijioke and Nneka were astonished, but Aguma remained humble, never asking for anything in return. "She is a gift to us all," the villagers would say. "Aguma is our miracle." The more their gifts arrived, the more Aguma felt a growing weight in her chest. She didn't want the attention and riches. She wanted to be a normal girl, but she could never be that again. As her fame grew, so did the demands on her time. From sunrise to sunset, people arrived at their home, asking for her touch, words, and healing. At first, Aguma found joy in helping them. She saw the relief on their faces, the gratitude in their eyes, but as time went on, she began to feel the exhaustion. The energy it took to channel the mysterious power within her was beginning to take a toll. Some days, she barely had the strength to lift her hands, let alone heal another sick villager. Her parents noticed the change. "You are doing too much, Aguma," her mother told her one day. "You need to rest. Let the villagers heal themselves for a while." Aguma shook her head. "I can't, Mama. They need me." Her father too was concerned. "The villagers have come to rely on you too much. You are only one person, Aguma. You cannot heal the world." But Aguma knew she couldn't turn people away. Their suffering was real, and she had the power to help them, but the exhaustion was becoming unbearable. One night, after a particularly long day of healing, Aguma's body was aching. She collapsed into bed and fell into deep sleep almost immediately. As she slept, she dreamed. In the dream, she found herself standing in a vast open field. In the distance, a figure appeared, walking toward her. As the figure drew closer, Aguma's heart raced. The woman looked exactly like her, an older version of herself. Her hair too was locked into long dreadlocks. Her eyes were filled with wisdom and sorrow. "I am Aguma," the woman said, "and you are my reincarnate." Aguma stared at the woman, beset by fear. "Who are you?" she asked. The woman smiled sadly. I was once like you, gifted with the power to heal, but my life was cut short because of greed. Aguma frowned. Greed? What do you mean? The old woman told her that her parents, like hers, were proud of her gift, but they saw it as a way to grow rich and gain power, and so they demanded that people offer gifts in exchange of her healing, even though her chi had warned them that the gift must be given freely. Aguma, intrigued by the woman's story, asked, "What happened?" "My chi took away my power when I refused to stop my parents from collecting gifts," the woman said regretfully. "I lost everything, my gifts, my health, and eventually my life. I never found the love that I longed for, and my destiny was left unfulfilled." The woman reached out and touched Aguma's hand. "You must be careful. You have been given a great power, but it is not yours to keep. You must use it to bless others without expectation of reward. Only then will you find true love and fulfillment." "What should I do?" Aguma asked. The woman smiled. "Give freely without fear, and when the time comes, you will find a man whose spirit aligns with yours. He will help you fulfill your destiny. But until then, stay true to your gift and never let greed take hold." As the woman's image began to fade, Aguma called out, "Wait, who are you?" "I am you and you are me. Remember what I've told you." Aguma woke with her heart pounding in her chest. She sat up in bed, and the image of the woman, so strikingly similar to herself, lingered in her mind. She could not help but remember the woman's command, "Give freely without fear. Only then will you find true love and fulfillment." Aguma recalled the warnings about greed, and then the story of how the ancestor had lost everything. Aguma had never considered that her gift could be dangerous if used improperly. The gifts and attention the villagers showered upon her and her family had seemed like natural tokens of gratitude. But now she saw them in a new light. Fear gripped her, and she got out of bed and went to where her parents slept. She gently shook her mother awoke. "Aguma, what is it?" Nneka asked. "I had a dream. There was a woman. She looked like me but older. She said her name was Aguma and that I am her reincarnate. She warned me, Mama. She said I must give freely without taking anything in return for my gift, or else I will lose it." This is a serious message, Aguma," Nneka said softly. "The ancestors have spoken to you." "But what do we do?" Aguma asked. "We've accepted so many gifts from the villages. I've never thought it was wrong before, but now." "We will have to stop," Nneka said firmly. "It's clear now, your gift isn't meant to be used for profit, no matter how much the villagers want to repay us. From now on, we will refuse their offerings." "But will they understand?" Aguma asked. She could already imagine the confusion and disappointment on the villagers' faces when they were told their gifts would no longer be accepted. Nneka nodded. "It won't be easy. People have grown accustomed to showing their gratitude in this way, but we must follow the guidance of the ancestors." Just then, Chijioke stirred in his sleep, waking to find the two women huddled together. After hearing the story, he too realized the gravity of the situation. "This is what the spirits have instructed, then we will honor it," he said with a resolute nod. From that day onward, Aguma stopped accepting gifts from the people she helped with her spiritual gifts. The people were surprised and confused at the same time. "Why would you refuse what is given out of gratitude?" asked one of the elders who was healed of stroke. "The villagers honor your daughter's gift. Surely there is no harm in accepting what is freely offered." Aguma told him about her dream and the woman who appeared to her and told her not to take anything for her gift, lest she lose the gift. "It is not mine to keep, but something to be shared without expectation of reward," she said. The elder nodded, understanding dawning on his face. "Ah, the spirits have spoken to you directly." But what would the villagers say? They have grown used to showing their things they may not understand. "We will explain it to them," Chijoke said, "and if they don't understand, we will stand by Aguma's decision. I will help spread the word. The villagers will need time to adjust, but they will respect your wishes." When the rest of the village got to know that Aguma and her family no longer accepted gifts, they were confused and disappointed. Some took the news with understanding, recognizing the importance of Aguma's connection to the spirit world. Others, however, were less accepting. They had grown used to offering yams and other tokens of gratitude. To them, it felt wrong to take without giving something in return. Aguma continued to heal the villagers, but something strange began to happen. As she gave more of herself freely, her power seemed to grow stronger, and with just a touch, she could feel the sickness in a person's body melt away. The words she said to the sick seemed to carry a new weight, as if they were being spoken by the spirits themselves. The villagers began to notice the change as well. Those who had been suffering from long-standing illnesses were cured after a single visit. The more Aguma healed, the more her power grew, and with it the reverence of the people. By the time she reached womanhood, suitors flocked to her, not only for her beauty, but for the mysterious aura that surrounded her. Some came from her village, others from beyond, hoping to be the one to win her hand. But Aguma turned them all away. Her father Chijoke had been so proud of her, and now that she was of marriageable age, he expected her to settle down and give him grandchildren. Her mother Nneka adored her, but even she could not understand Aguma's hasty stance. "Why do you keep rejecting suitors?" her father asked one evening, after yet another hopeful man had left their home dejected. "Because none of them is the one," she said. Her father frowned. Frustration ached in the lines of his face. "The one? You keep talking about the one, but how will you know when you find him? These are good men from good families." Aguma sighed, turning to face him. "I just know, Papa. My heart will tell me when the right one appears." "Your father is right, Aguma. You are no longer a child. You have a gift. But that gift does not mean you should remain alone. A woman must marry and have a family." "I will marry," Aguma replied, "when the one destined for me comes." In a village far from Aguma's home stood a young hunter named Ozonna with the body of a bush rat he had just taken down. Ozonna was handsome and strongly built. His uncle with whom he lived had sought out suitable maidens for him to marry. Yet, like Aguma, he had refused them all. "When I see her, I will know," Ozonna would say. His father, Chief Ezudo, had remarried after his mother died when he was just a boy. The new wife had never treated him with kindness, and he had left his father's home in Ezioha, choosing instead to live in his mother's village where he felt closer to her spirit. Since then, his mother's presence had never truly left him. Her image would appear to him in dreams, urging him to find a wife. One evening, as Ozonna returned from a hunt, a messenger from his father's village arrived, breathless and anxious. "Your father is ill," the man said. "He has called for you." It had been over 2 decades since he had seen his father, and their relationship had always been strained. Still, duty called. "I will go," Ozonna replied, though his heart was not in it. The next morning, Ozonna set out for his father's village, crossing rivers and forests that separated his mother's home from his father's. As he crossed the last river, he saw a maiden sitting by the water, washing her clothes, her movements graceful as if she was a part of the river itself. Ozonna stopped, his breath catching in his throat. Something about her presence stirred something deep inside him. He greeted her casually, as was custom. She looked up, her eyes met his, and in that instant a spark seemed to pass between them. A connection that neither could explain, but both could feel. "Good afternoon," she replied softly. Ozonna nodded, his heart raced for reasons he couldn't understand. He waited for a moment before continuing on his way, but his thoughts remained on her even as he approached his father's compound. When he arrived, he found his father sitting in bed, weak but not as gravely ill as the messenger had implied. Ezudo's eyes softened when he saw his son, Ozonna. "Ozonna, it is time for you to return," his father said. "You are my first son. You must take your place in the family and in the village." Ozonna listened, but his mind was elsewhere. That evening, as he lay in his bed, he could not stop thinking about the maiden by the river. "That is the one," he whispered to himself. "That is the one I've been waiting for. But how could he find her again?" At the same moment, Aguma was sitting with her parents by the fire. The encounter by the river had stayed with her all day. And as the stars began to dot the night sky, she realized what it meant. She turned to her parents with excitement. "I found him," she said. Nneka looked at her, startled. "Who?" "The one I've been waiting for. I met him today by the river." "A man from the village?" her father asked. "I don't know where he's from, but I know he is the one." Nneka smiled, her relief evident. "Then it is time." The next morning, Aguma returned to the river. She did not know if he would come, but something deep within her told her that he would. And come he did. Ozonna was unable to shake the image of the maiden from his mind and had returned to the river, hoping to see her again. As he approached, there she was, sitting by the water as if she had been waiting for him. Their eyes met, and this time there was no doubt. The connection between them was undeniably powerful. It was as if their souls had recognized each other long before their bodies had. He approached her slowly. "I don't know your name, but..." "I'm Aguma," she replied, standing to face him. "And I know who you are." Ozonna blinked in surprise. "You do?" "Yes," Aguma said, a smile tugging at her lips. "Our chi has brought us together. You are the one I've been waiting for." Ozonna's heart swelled with joy. He had spent so many years searching, resisting the pressure to marry, waiting for the exact moment. "I am Ozonna," he said. "And I know you are the one I've been waiting for too." Their hands touched, and in that moment, they both knew it was destiny. Later that day, Ozonna stood by their hut, watching his father Ezudo, who had recovered much strength since his arrival. Regardless of their years of separation, there was still a connection between them, a bond of blood that neither time nor distance could erase. He asked to speak to his father, sitting by his side. "I have decided to marry." "Marry?" Ezudo asked. "Yes, Papa. And who is this woman you speak of, and where is she from?" his father asked. Ozonna told his father that the maiden was from their village. Ezudo's eyebrows shot up in surprise, his mouth parting slightly as if he hadn't heard correctly. "You've been here for less than 2 days, and now you speak of marrying a maiden from here. How?" "I met her by the river yesterday." The surprise on Ezudo's face deepened. "Yesterday? You met a woman yesterday, and today you are talking about marriage? Ozonna, have you lost your senses? How can you make such a decision so quickly? How do you even know her?" "I know it seems sudden, Papa, but it's not. The moment I saw her, I knew. There was a connection, something deeper than anything I've ever felt before. It was like our chi brought us together at that moment for a reason." Ezudo was silent for a long while, staring at his son as if trying to gauge whether he was truly serious or simply caught in a moment of youthful passion. "What is this maiden's name?" he asked. "Her name is Aguma, Papa." "This woman, Aguma, Is she not the healer, the one everyone speaks of? Yes, Uzonna nodded. She is the one. She is unlike any other woman I have ever met. Father, I cannot explain it, but it feels as if we were meant to find each other. Oh, my son, Aguma is God's gift to our village. She has rejected suitors from both our village and beyond, and just maybe you're right about destiny bringing you both together. Ezudo made plans to visit Aguma's family and formally ask for her hand. The next day, Uzonna, his father, and a few elders from the village made their way to Aguma's home. When they arrived, Chijioke and Nneka, Aguma's parents, greeted them warmly. Though curiosity danced in their eyes, they knew Uzonna's family by reputation but had not expected to receive such a visitor so soon. After the usual exchange of greetings and pleasantries, Ezudo told them that they have come to ask for their daughter's hand in marriage for their son, Uzonna. Chijioke looked at his daughter, who stood by the door, calm and composed, as if she had known this moment would come. This is unexpected, he said slowly. Uzonna only arrived in the village 2 days ago. Uzonna nodded. It may seem sudden, but I have known in my heart for a long time that when I met the right person, I would know. And I have found that person in Aguma. Aguma had spoken to them the night before about having found the one, and now here he was sitting before them asking for her hand. Chijioke, though still surprised, turned to his daughter Aguma. What do you have to say? Aguma smiled softly. I knew the moment I met him that he was the one my chi had chosen for me. With that, the matter was settled. The elders discussed the dowry, the plans for the wedding, and the celebrations to follow. The gifted healer and the respected hunter got married. It was not just the marriage of two individuals, but the merging of two destinies that felt preordained by the gods. From the very first day, their lives together was near perfection. Uzonna supported Aguma wholeheartedly, standing by her side as she continued to use her gifts to heal the people of their village and beyond. As time continued its lengthless march forward, Aguma's power, which had always been strong, seemed to grow even more potent. Where once she had healed the sick with her touch, she now found her presence alone could bring relief. People began to speak of miraculous recoveries after merely being in the same room as her. Her connection to the spiritual world deepened, and she began to have visions of events that were yet to unfold. The villagers who had always revered her now spoke of her as if she was more than human, a vessel for the gods themselves. Her marriage to her destined partner had unlocked something within her that was beyond even her understanding.